Let me ask you something directly. What if you achieve everything you were working toward and still don't feel at peace? What if you become more disciplined, more productive, more consistent, and yet something still feels slightly off? Not wrong, not broken, just off. That quiet feeling is what many people ignore. Because from the outside, things look good. You are improving, you're building momentum, you are staying disciplined, you are growing. But internally, you might feel disconnected from the very life you are constructing. And that's the difference between hustle and alignment. You see, hustle builds progress, alignment builds wholeness. Hello and welcome back to the Mentium Podcast. In the previous episodes, we talked about turning intention into action, understanding resistance, building discipline without burnout, and shaping identity. But today, we are asking a bigger question. After all this growth, is the life you are building actually aligned with who you are becoming? Because growth without alignment eventually leads to exhaustion. And success without alignment eventually feels empty. So today we are talking about alignment over hustle and how to build a life that feels whole, not just productive. Let's get started. First, let's define hustle clearly, because hustle is not the same as hard work. Hustle is effort driven by pressure rather than purpose. It's when you keep going because you are afraid to slow down. It's when your motivation is fueled more by fear of falling behind than by clarity of direction. Hustle sounds like this internally. I can't afford to stop. If I slow down, I lose momentum. Everyone else is ahead. I need to do more. There is nothing wrong with ambition. There is nothing wrong with discipline. But when ambition is disconnected from alignment, it becomes exhausting. Many people don't burn out because they're lazy. They burn out because they're constantly running towards something they haven't examined closely enough. The real danger of hustle, though, is subtle. It gradually disconnects you from your internal compass. You start making decisions based on speed, visibility, or external validation instead of alignment with your values. You might say yes to opportunities that look impressive but drain you. You might maintain habits that look productive but feel heavy. You might continue down a path simply because you've already invested time into it. That's not growth. That's momentum without reflection. What alignment actually means? Alignment is when your external life matches your internal values. It means your schedule reflects what you say matters. It means your discipline supports your well-being rather than undermines it. It means your progress feels sustainable, not forced. Alignment doesn't mean life is easier or stress-free. It means your effort feels integrated. You are not constantly at war with yourself. When you are aligned, you don't feel like you're performing a version of success. You don't constantly question whether this path is yours. You don't need constant external validation to feel secure. Here's a simple test of alignment. If no one were watching, would you still choose this direction? That question strips away performance and leaves you with the truth. Alignment requires clarity about what truly matters. It requires you to define success for yourself, not absorb someone else's version of it or society's version. This is where many people struggle. They improve their discipline, they strengthen their identity, they show up consistently, but they do it in a way that disconnect from joy. You can be highly structured and still feel empty. You can be consistent and still feel resentful. You can be productive and still feel lost. Why? Because discipline without alignment becomes obligation. Alignment asks different questions. Does this direction reflect my values? Is this space sustainable? Am I sacrificing something essential for something impressive? There are seasons where intensity is required, but intensity cannot be your permanent operating system. If your version of success costs you your health, your relationship, or your peace, it is mispriced. Alignment allows ambition to exist within boundaries. It allows growth without self-abandon. Alignment is impossible without boundaries. You cannot live aligned if you cannot say no. You must be able to say no to opportunities that are impressive but misaligned, commitments that overloads you, comparison that distort your priorities, expectations that are not truly yours. Saying no creates space for alignment. It also requires courage, because when you stop chasing everything, you risk disappointing people who benefited from your constant availability. That's the truth. But misalignment disappoints you quietly and consistently. Over time, that disappointment turns into frustration, then exhaustion. You have to understand that boundaries are not rejection. They are protection of what matters most. So let's talk about how to build a life that feels whole. Wholeness is not about perfect balance. It's about integration. It's when your work, your discipline, your relationship, and your identity feel connected rather than fragmented. A whole life doesn't feel frantic. It feels intentional. You were still working, you were still growing, you were still building, but you were not constantly chasing. You are building steadily. This is where the entire arc of these episodes in this series comes together. Intention matters. Understanding resistance matters. Sustainable discipline matters. Identity matters. But all of it should lead to alignment, because the goal is not to become a machine. The goal is to become integrated. In closing, as you move forward from this episode, I want you to reflect honestly. Is the life you are building aligned with who you are becoming? Is your discipline supporting your peace? Are your goals aligned with your values? Alignment is quieter than hustle. It doesn't look as flashy, but it feels strong. Hustle builds noise. Alignment builds meaning. And meaning lasts longer than momentum. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode of the Mentium Podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself and your loved ones. I am Madiama, and this is Mentium. Peace.